Minash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamu alaikum and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. I am your host Hajra Satti and today happens to be 18th of September 2024. It's a fine Wednesday morning in Islamabad and we are enjoying a very beautiful transition in the weather, and falls are very prettier in Islamabad because you can witness the trees around you, you can witness the beauty of the falling leaves, something that is very indigenous of Islamabad. But however, when I say it's today happens to be 18th of September, it also happens to be World Bamboo Day. And why we need to observe the World Bamboo Day? Because bamboo is a sort of flora, part of the flora and the fauna, which grows very easily, and it has a lot of economic, cultural and environmental benefits. And the theme of this year's World Bamboo Day is Next Generation Bamboo Solution, Innovation and Design. And why we observe this day? It was basically made to be observed this day, particular day, because we want to invent about the modern methods and inventive ways to make sure that how bamboo can help us curb the carbon footprint, because it is very essential in absorbing the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and it has a lot of other benefits when we talk about the cultural and the environmental upgradation. And we know that in the backdrop of the climate change, how important, how essential it is to talk about such methods which are climate friendly, which are smarter methods, so that we can help curb the degradation to the environment which the activity of humans have caused in the first place. But now let's go to the conversation that we want to develop in our first segment, and that is related to, of course, something which is very essential aspect of our society, that is related to the mental health aspect of the society, and that is the postpartum depression. And when we talk about the depression, when we talk about the anxiety, we can see that mental illnesses are on the rise across the world. So what can we do when we talk about the postpartum depression? Because having a baby brings lots of feelings of joy, at the same time nervousness, felicity. But for some people, it cannot be all joy and felicity. A lot of mothers also feel a lot of nervousness, anxiety, depression, how to handle a young new member that is the part of their family, and how to adjust to their identity, because having a baby creates a lot of changes in your body. It's not just the emotional changes you're witnessing, there are lots of physical changes. So we are going to talk about it. We are going to delve further in this particular aspect of it, what exactly baby bloom means. And I hear a lot of mothers saying that I feel emotionally numb after giving birth to it. So is that a normal expression? How to deal with that, how to manage with that, how to cope up with the stress, with the anxiety? I'm very glad that we have been joined by someone who happens to be the expert in this field. He is a medical specialist. He happens to be Dr. Uzair Javed Chaudhary. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you so much for having me today here.
Right. So Dr. Uzair, please brief us about the postpartum depression. What exactly are the symptoms, how to identify with that, and we will further develop it in the context of Pakistan.
Yes, sure. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Well, as the name suggests, it is the postpartum depression. That the depression, people usually ask me that, sir, how would you define postpartum depression? We all are having many definitions across the internet and the web, that what particularly it is. So I just, in a light mood, tell them that the depression inculcated in a person by herself or a man by the birth of baby. That is a depression which is not brought about into the world by the baby only. It is basically a change in a person, which happens to be in a person occurring due to a new responsibility coming over the minds and the body of a man.
Right.
And there are a lot of people who think that this depression is only confined to mothers, and I think it is not that.
Right.
Because depression is always some sort of responsibility which we think that we cannot cope with.
Right.
So it is a responsibility. So whoever is responsible goes through this phase, I think.
That's very true. And like I mentioned in my introduction, when you are having a new baby, it brings a lot of feelings of joy, felicity. There's a lot of excitement going on, right?
Exactly.
And there's a Chinese proverb which says that it takes a village to raise a baby, right?
Yeah,
so obviously that's a lot of a community work, because when a baby is brought, it's not just the mother, it's also the nani and dadi, particularly in a Pakistani society, right? But Dr. Saab, we also see that we have a strong family support system in Asian communities because they're not individualistic societies, they are highly communitarian societies, right? But we also see that a new mother also gets a lot of plethora of advices, right? How to raise the baby from the different experiences, and a lot of time that advice is very conflicting, right? Someone is saying do it this way, someone is saying do it that way, right? But then there's another opinion which says that motherhood is something very innate, right? It comes naturally. You need to listen to your inner voice. So as a doctor, and I think hearing to a lot of conflicting opinions also create a confusion, and that might contribute towards that postpartum depression or neonatal depression. I mean, you are the expert in the field, so please brief us about how a mother should deal with all of these, you know, advices and sometimes unsolicited opinions which are coming in, right? And is it a cause of the depression and anxiety? You know, what should a mother do in this condition?
Yes, in that context, I would like to say that when we get so much information, any person get overwhelmed.
Of course.
So just stick to the person you believe in, stick to the person who you have trust in.
Right.
And certainly, in my opinion, the partner can be the best advice.
Right.
And there are a lot of nani, dadis, and some are just our blood
Ais and
relations, and
chachi,
there are other people
Right.
who happen to be not our blood relations, but
True.
they are more close to us.
True.
So in postpartum depression, to be exact, we should stick to a person whom we rely on, whom we can tell, or the lady can tell that, okay, whatever he is going to say, whatever she is going to say will be the best, which I can follow on.
Right, right. And what if you believe in a lot of different ladies out there? How to, you know, adjust to their different conflicting advice?
Well, that's the common thing happening
right,
here.
right.
In that case, I think just take all the things and say, yes, okay,
Right.
I'll think about that. Oh, you're so good at your advice.
Right.
I'll look at that as well.
Right.
But stick to the person. Allah Ta'ala has made us ashraful makhlukat, you know, the best of all creatures.
True.
And our own intuitions can tell us a lot more things which any other person cannot tell us.
Right. And Dr. Saab, what exactly is the baby blue, if we talk about it? You know, because I hear this term very common, you know, someone is experiencing what is baby blue. And in the context of Pakistan, please shed some light on it.
Exactly. Baby blues are basically, it's a sort of state.
Right.
First of all, I would not like to state this thing, the postpartum depression, the PPD, is a sort of disease. It's not a disease in my context.
Right.
In my definition, it's not a disease. It is a state.
Right.
And the state of not being well, a state in which a person does not feel being powered enough. And regarding the baby blues, the females or the mothers sometimes think that, will I be a good mother? Will I be able to nurture the child? Will this child be a good son to me or a good daughter to me?
Right,
So these all are questions lead to a state of constant distress.
Right.
And by staying in constant distress, it is so many questions which become our nightmares sometimes.
Right, right.
I happen to have a case of a female coming to me
Right.
in our hospital, and she was like, Dr. Sab, can you please tell me that is my son going to be a good son to me?
Right.
And the first question I asked her was that, okay, miss, tell me, how old is your son? And you will be surprised by the answer of her. She told me that he is just 1 month old.
Right, right, right.
So it certainly was a baby blue. It was a nightmare of hers coming through her mouth out. And she just was she was just wanting my assurance that no, he will be a good son. Who
Right.
can tell at the age of 1 month? It is just our, emotional support which we are needing during that time. Sometimes it is not only the things which are only communicated to the associated to the emotional imbalance or the emotion problems. There are some sort of other issues as well, which we should also be discussing when talking about PPD.
Right. So, Dr. Zain, now let's talk about the concept of the postpartum depression. Number one, how long does it last, right? Is it related to the childbirth only, or if it left untreated, it can prolong over the time? And how to identify the symptoms relating to it, right? And is there any particular medicinal, solutions available to treat that? I mean, are there medicines available to treat that, or psychotherapy is a more better method, talking out there, I mean, having a good support group out there? How do you go about it, advise to go about it?
Well, postpartum depression has different causes in certain cases. Sometimes, as you told, that it is the mental problem, which can lead to postpartum depression. And sometimes it's not the mental problem.
Right.
It is just the emotional changing. It is sometimes, it's just the hormones which are in a prolonged state. There is a hormone, I would like to go to the little bit medical terminology. That's certainly not confusing the audience, but yes, there is a very common hormone which we know about is progesterone.
Okay.
During the pregnancy, this hormone is in elevated level because this is the hormone which is responsible to maintain a pregnancy.
Right, right.
So a person, a female, which is undergoing 9 months of pregnancy is having very high levels of progesterone.
Right, right.
And you know, when right after delivery, the levels of this particular hormone, the progesterone, it drops.
Right.
It drops significantly.
Right.
And you know, when sometimes we are just acclimatized to a thing, if we are acclimatized to a well-lit room, we'll go outside and all of a sudden we will be so much famished by the light coming to our eyes. And sometimes if we are living in a air-conditioned room, we'll go outside, it will not be that much hot, but we will feel too much hot outside.
Right.
In the same case is with this progesterone level.
Right.
The whole 9 months, the mother is with high levels of progesterone,
Right.
and right after delivery, progesterone levels low down.
Again, what is the time span, if I may ask and delve more deeper into it, of experiencing this postpartum depression? Like, is it 3 months after the birth? Is it 6 months after the birth? Or if it left untreated, you know, how badly it can affect your mental health? Please shed some light on that.
Yes, sure. Well, postpartum depression usually starts in one day, and sometimes it starts even before delivery.
Okay. That's
And
interesting.
when it starts, it can be over in 2 days, it can be over in a week, it can be over a month, or sometimes if left untreated, if not taken it into account, it even lasts for years. And that is the alarming point. When you know, anything which becomes chronic, it takes 2 to 3 months. If a thing remains, if a disease, if a state remains more than 2 to 3 months, it can be termed as a chronic condition. So it is, now here is the point, that how can we cope this PPD? Because it is a vast and major problem these days. There are many people are talking about depression, you know, a lot of people are talking about depression and types of depression, but this particular area of depression, that is PPD, is not being discussed very much. So if we go into the depth of the studies that how much PPD is across the country and across the world, we will be very much surprised that the levels and the ratios are so high. And as you just told, that we have our Pakistani system in which we are having so many advices and unasked advices coming to us. About that, it is sometimes we are overwhelmed. What can we do when if a mother, she is just 20 years old or 23 years old, she is a first-time mother, she is going to give birth to a baby, she is already so much overwhelmed that she is going to be responsible for a little sweet little one coming to the world. And she is being burdened, you have to be a good mother. And there is another taboo going across Pakistan and in the Southeast Asia that it should be a boy or it should be a girl. That is a very big discussion. Let's not go there. But certainly if a person, if a lady, she is having this pressure over from her in-laws that if she is going to have a baby girl, then sometimes the mother-in-laws, they also threaten that she'll make sure that her marriage ends. So that's a whole lot of pressure. So we cannot say that postpartum depression or PPD is particularly a mental state. It is.
And is there any medicine to treat it, or is, I mean, a psychotherapy a more better method to go about it? If someone comes to you with this condition, what advice do you dole out to that person?
The very first thing is taking the history of a person. When we take about the history, we get to know so many things that if she is going to, the first thing is to establish a cause for the PPG. And regarding medicines, I won't be talking about the medicine. Certainly, there are medications which can help a person with PPD, but you know, we cannot prescribe the medicines on the national television for a patient.
Sure.
So I'll just say that there are certain causes. If it is the social cause, eradicate that cause.
Okay.
If it is the hormonal cause, we'll give the medications and we'll bring it to the normal.
Depends upon the case.
It depends upon the cause.
Right.
If so, our aim as a doctor in a medical setup, in a health provider setup, is to determine the cause and eradicate that cause. If that cause is the mother-in-law, certainly we have the partner come to us and we explain it to him that, okay, you are her biggest support. You got to be learning and counseling her regarding that she is going to be good and it is going to be very much good.
And I think that must be quite a job counseling people out there, because they are coming from a particular background and mostly from the patriarchal background, and it's very difficult changing those patterns, those generational patterns that they have imbibed. But certainly, Dr. Saab, now let's move on to a very important aspect of this particular condition, like you termed it, postpartum depression. Is it gender specific? Because when we talk about bringing a little creature, a cute little creature into this world, is related to the health of the mother, right? She's experiencing a lot of hormonal changes, like you mentioned, physical changes and mental changes in her body, and I would say spiritual changes too. But when we talk about, and obviously the endless cycles of sleep deprivation, and you're constantly overwhelmed about it, right?
Exactly.
So there's a lot of change in your identity too. So you are a mother, right? But what about the partner or the father of that baby? Does the father also experience these, this anxiety and the postpartum depression that we are terming it, or is it just related to the mother?
Well, it is a very debatable question. I'll just take...
because their life has changed, totally changed. Exactly. It's like 360-degree change.
Everyone is claiming to be whatever they want themselves to be.
True.
So, yes, you're very much right. The fathers also are suffering from PPD, because 2 months before I was conducting a research in the remote areas of AJK and some of the remote areas of Rawalpindi. And we happened to collect data, and we did an audit over that. And according to that audit, we summarized that the fathers, they're also feeling this PPD. They're also going through this PPD. And there is a significant amount of fathers who are just in so much deep depression, which is only related to PPD.
Okay.
Like first-timer fathers, they are sitting, and I have heard, during this audit, I was with the team, and we went and I listened to the fathers, and literally the first-timer father, he was just 24 years old, and he was stating that, Dr. Saab, I don't know if I'll be able to even afford this baby.
Right.
I don't know if I'll be able to provide good education to this baby.
Right.
So this is a very dark chapter that is that fathers, they are very much under-discussed.
True.
They are the sole provider in the Pakistani environment.
Right.
And those fathers, certainly they are feeling responsible and they want to do better for their children. And with baby comes the responsibility, and this responsibility in such an economical crisis in Pakistan sometimes certainly goes to a state of depression. And if it is associated to baby, it's PPD.
And I think also the environmental factors, because they're operating in a particular context, in a particular system, and that creates a lot of pressure over them, right? And we see the modern day pressures, this triggers. You have to provide, branded education, branded clothing, branded this, branded that. That creates a lot of tension and pressure over the bread earners of the family. There's no denying this fact, right?
As we also know that there in Pakistan, there are almost 68% private schools in Pakistan. And it is very much pressure from the entire society. Okay, we want to provide our children the private education instead of the government. However, the government has taken so much steps to improve the government education, and it has significantly improved a lot. So I think we should stick to the government education and thus relieving the father.
That's very true. So now, Dr. Saab, now let's come across another maxim that I often hear mothers saying, especially after the birth, that is that I'm feeling emotionally numb, right? Is it a common sentiment to feel, especially after giving the birth, and how to cope up with this particular state, because obviously something new is not very familiar familiar, and if something is not very familiar, it does not feel very safe out there, right? So is it a new term, or is it a safer space to say and exhibit that, you know, I'm feeling emotionally numb after giving the childbirth?
Well, in that case, I'll just say that if a person goes through any trauma, the after effects are PTSD, the post-traumatic stress disorder.
True.
So it is sometimes if a person is in the car accident, he'll come with to us that, okay, sometime when I think about that accident, and I all of a sudden feel numb. So this is the delivery. It is a process, you know. During the time of delivery, the pain felt by the female is equal to the breaking of 350 bones all together at once.
Right.
So that's hell of a pain.
Right.
And certainly if during that time we're not having good emotional support, whenever we'll think about that thing and we have not healed from that, certainly talking about the mothers, if they have not healed from that, so they will feel a bit numb.
Right.
So it is a sort of it is a part of PPD. And as we have discussed that psychotherapy is the best option.
Right.
And therapist can be anyone.
Right.
Therapist can be the father, therapist can be the mother, therapist can be a friend, and the best therapist is sometimes we ourselves.
True, true.
So if a mother, if a father, if they both are experiencing the PPD, they should talk to each other.
Right.
Unfortunately, in our society, the common talking between the couples is very much something which is not very much encouraged.
Right.
So in the remote and slum areas, it should be done that they should be giving their privacy. And in their privacy, they should talk to each other.
True.
If a female is not having a good emotional mood, if she is feeling emotionally numb, as you just told us, then the first thing she should do is talk to her partner. And when she'll talk to him, certainly he will be having a solution to that. And if partner is not, it is a responsibility of partner to counsel the environment around her as well.
True, true.
It is his responsibility. If she is having the depression, it is the responsibility of the man to counsel his parents, his family, his household people, that she's the one who has blessed our family with a new person. She's the one who has just given us a cute one to play with. So we should be the one supporting her.
Right, and thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for shedding the light on the postpartum depression. And we see that with the rise in the mental illnesses across on the world, depression is discussed, but this particular type of the depression, which one particularly feels after giving birth to a younger one, to a child out there of producing an offspring, that is not much talked about, especially in our communities, because motherhood is considered to be something, a very innate sort of a thing. It comes from within, and we don't experience, or we don't witness that, you know, what sort of changes a person is going through. And sometimes the overwhelming, conflicting advices that are doled out at a young mother can be very overwhelming and burdensome to hold. So make sure that you have a supportive environment out there. And for the young mothers, I think the best thing is to reach out also the young mothers and how they cope with that. By having this cross-pollination of ideas, of the experiences exchange, it can bring a lot of positive light on how to deal with the situation, how to raise a younger one, and it can give you a lot of help. So with that, we are going on a short break, and after we come back, we have an interesting discussion lined up. Don't go anywhere. Good morning. Welcome back, and before going on to the break, we were having a discussion surrounding the arrival of a child and how to cope up with that particular situation. So now we are going to discuss when a child goes through early years of the education, what sort of problems does that child encounter, and what can we do to make sure that child has a more nourishing environment. So I have some statistics with me regarding the out of the school children in Pakistan, and according to UNICEF, there are almost 26 million or 25 million children who are out of the school. school. This is such a huge and staggering number, and this is second highest after the Nigeria. And in the capital territory of Islamabad, we have 0.8 million children who are out of the school. So how to make sure that the children who are out of the school, who are working out in the workshops, supporting their families out there, or maybe they are begging on the streets, how can we mainstream them into the education or create an alternative learning programs for them so that they may be accompanied by a more freedom of movement, so that they can adjust in, there can be a condensed program and syllabi for them in which they can learn while at the same time also contributing towards the household income. I'm very glad that I have been joined by someone who has a vast experience in the education. She is an educationist herself. She is the beauty with the brain sitting here. She also headed the Department of the Child Development and Education, and she also happens to be the former professor of home economics. I'm very glad that I have been joined by Ms. Kulsoom Khan. Assalamu alaikum, madam, and thank you so much for coming to my show.
Thank you so much for inviting me to this show.
Right, madam, thank you so much for working on the education, because this is an aspect of our society that is a very prolonged effects, if we might say, right? So as an educationist, I'm pretty sure you have encountered lots of missing gaps, and I'm pretty sure that you would like to shed some light on what are the recommendations, how to fill those missing gaps and talk about it.
Yes, presently we are facing a lot of problems with those children who were really dropouts for the last 5 years, especially during the corona impact. We faced a lot of dropouts in the schools, especially in elementary level. But the main focus was for primary education, because most of the schools, especially in Islamabad, when I started working with my center in Child Development and Education Center, I looked into the problems of the early years, because children, once they are in the school and they are dropout and they don't come back to the school, that's a big issue. The gap can be only filled by checking into the connectivity and looking into the bridge that the society, the community is developing for the educational institutions. All educational institutions are not really trained for such building the bridges between the families of those children who are dropouts or who are lacking the proper education system in their community. Whereas I am in Islamabad, and I can only talk about some of my examples in Islamabad. I have seen children from 6 to 16 years sitting in one classroom, and that was a big problem, because children of 6 years and children of 16 years are both diverse mental capabilities and connectivity, and physical health is also diverse. So we had a big challenge over there.
Right. Right. So, madam, when we talk about the dropouts, right, and you're focusing on these kids, right, so there was a very interesting discussion generated within the UNICEF report, and they talked about creating the drop-in centers, and especially post-COVID, you mentioned a lot of kids dropped out, right, because the situation was dire. They wanted to earn some living in the bread for their families, and one of the suggestions that was given in that report was that there should be drop-in centers specifically for the children who are working, who are either on the streets, so that there's a more freedom of movement and flexibility for them, and there can be condensed syllabus for them, so they can also acquire the education, while at the same time, and I think being an educationist, you must know that how difficult it is to convincing their parents that investing in their child's education is such a longer term benefit, but they are focused on the reaping shorter benefits of, you know, working in some workshop or being, you know, with some sort of begging out there and bringing that money to the house, right? So do you think that we are focused as a society, as a community, we're focused on those drop-in centers, or this idea is very new to our society?
Well, I think the most big challenge in focusing the out-of-school children program in Pakistan is the socioeconomic strata. The socioeconomic problem is actually the low level of socioeconomic families. Those families who are from low income families, they have this necessity, you know, necessity is mother of invention. These children who are dropouts, they went into different laborious jobs. Girls went into domestic jobs. They just left the schools. When they came back, they were actually trained by the society in a different way. So over here, what we talk about the challenges is equity also. We need to mainstream education through giving skilled training curriculum to these children, because they are both pre-puberty age and post early age.
Right.
That is the 6 to 16. So, when you talk about this curriculum and you are talking about the program, we worked with the adult literacy program,
True.
ALP, and that gave us a specific programming in developed curriculum that was A, B and C, and that was age oriented also, and that was also necessity oriented. Like, you know, the children who are of 16 years, they are actually their age onset is for primary class 5. So, they have to go through package A, B and C, the curriculum you are talking about, so that we can also control the problems coming with the age.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, madam, we've also seen when we talk about the alternative learning pathways, right? So, one of the alternative learning pathways in Pakistan is madrasa, and let's have a frank and candid conversation on that, because when we talk about the education, when we talk about the dropouts, we cannot discount the factor of poverty in this entire equation, right? And there are parents who insist on their kids going to madrasa. Why? Because number one, they're also providing them free food, right? And also the education is free. So, why can't we mainstream the madrasa and make it more an alternative learning pathway and give them the same opportunities to the kids out there who are, you know, maybe enrolled in private education or in the government education? You know, how is state thinking on these pathways or on these lines?
Yes, this was one thing that was observed during the post-COVID era, that madrasa education was common because they enrolled students for free, and then the food is free also. Over here in Islamabad, presently most of the schools in the model sector, the government sector, are being provided with free food. But the thing is this, that the out of school children population who is going into inclusive settings, their dire need is to address their nutritional needs, basically their mental health needs, their family and community social activities, and they're actually accepting these children as a fresh enrollment into the school.
Right.
The main problem over here is the mainstreaming these children into a formal education. That is the what I would say the main issue over here in the schools. Especially the government need to review their policies, implementing in time. Training of the teachers for the out of school children classes need to be a review also. They need to be re-implement, because not all trainings are for OSC classes. These children are comparatively, they need to be connected to the formal education. For that, the teacher need to be trained in a way that the global issues, she also must be, she must be, you know, her training must fulfill the needs throughout the world also, because globally the OSC problems are there, and the way they train their teachers, our teachers should be trained in a way that they are connected internationally with all those communities who are working for out of school children programs in the throughout the world. Our teachers, they are trained, but what I see as a challenge is that their training does not actually cover the mental health and the social health of the child, and
I think that's a very important point, and
yeah,
thank
it
you
is
so
an important. Mental health is very important.
Yes, and thank you so much for shedding the light on this point. And I think you're focusing a lot on teacher training and being an educationist. Yes, and being an educationist in this field, you have seen it very closely. You know what are the problems, what are the missing gaps that exist in that. And I think one of the point which is very essential as a student and as a teacher that I want to shed some light on is that we are when a child comes to a school, so we are teaching it how to survive, right, in this world. We are not teaching that child how to thrive in this world, right? And when we talk about thriving, here comes the mental health aspect into it, right? So we are not teaching them how to regulate their emotions. So if you're feeling angry, how you need to express your anger, you know, not suppress it, while at the same time make sure that how to better regulate that, right? And that is why we see these problems of intolerance coming across the societies. So when we talk about the teacher trainings, right, and when we talk of connected to the emotional health aspect of it, do you think that what sort of trainings can be imparted when we talk about regulating the emotional health of a child, because it is as much important as the academic life of a child?
Obviously, teacher is the main focal point, you can say the main focal person in the class.
Of course.
When she enters the class, she faces a diverse age, diverse culture, diverse family in one class,
yes.
backgrounds. They all come from different backgrounds, ethnically, culturally, socially. So the teacher is actually someone who connects everyone in the class. So this is an important aspect, and in most of the schools where these children are studying, they can very easily see, I mean, anyone can go and see that they look a different class from others. This does not actually cover the inclusive setting in a school. Whereas other students are empowered with their different programs, these children, they need to go into sports also, they need to go into their physical health also, they need to go into a good nutritional factor also, because they are lacking nutrition also. A lot of survey has been done about their health. So the teacher is the main, you can see, the one who is standing in the class is the main focal person for the kids. And over there, question of equity and gender mainstreaming is also very important. So when we talk about teachers training and all these things, we also say, since most of the students left their schools for 2-3 years. I mean, for a child who is going to a regular school, even one day matters, you know, one day actually matters. You cannot, when our children used to go to school, their teachers used to say, please do not let them sit in the house. If they are sick, it's okay, you bring the medical certificate. See, what a lot of concern over there. Comparatively, when this out of school children group comes into a school, we need to give them an inclusive setting. Inclusive means that we need to mainstream them with the other children, and this can only be done by teachers training. Another thing that I would like to say over here, that these teachers should be trained to, another set of curriculum should be developed for especially those children who have left school for 3-4 years. And they have been working in workshop, they have been working in domestic workers, even cleaning, laundry, all these things. But these things are also globally, if you would say, education is not only just books and copies. This is also mainstreaming the mental health of the child. So if the boy is good at IT skills and all these things, skill development is very important, and teachers should be trained for developing their skills within their curriculum.
Right, and Ms. Kulsum, when we talk about inclusivity, and this is a term that is very much used now. Yes, nowadays it's very much used nowadays, and there's a lot of discourse that has been generated on there, on the media, on the academia, and in different levels. So when we talk about inclusivity, and when we talk it in the context of Pakistan, so we cannot ignore the fact that there are lots of female students out there who are not allowed to go to the schools, right? Because their family members, they perceive that those spaces are not safe enough for a child or girl child to go out there, right? The notions of honor come into it, and these are the values that are very intricately linked to our social norms, right? How can we make these schools more girl friendly, at the same time providing them the safe space where they can come, where they can acquire education? Because if you are teaching a mother or grooming a girl child, right, so you can see that she becomes a mother and an entire household is educated like that. So it's very much important and necessary to invest in a girl's education, right? How can we do about it, and are there any success stories that you would like to enumerate?
About the girl child education, whereas in my experience while I was in teaching practices, I have observed, I actually had experience with the adolescents, because when we used to take admissions in the college, it was 16 years. That's the post-puberty age. And over there, most of the girls, after doing their 12 years of education, their parents would say, we want our children to go into a short-term education degree so that they can be settled in life. But what you are talking about is the mainstreaming the girl education. It means the gender mainstreaming also.
That's true.
So, since I have been working in women college, so most of the time I was facing these girls of 16 years of education, and they were like, they just wanted to become either the professional degrees, you know, and the doctors and engineers. What our teachers training actually was important, that we should counsel them for other career pathways also. Even for the same thing, when I started with out of school children programs in Islamabad, I saw at the age of 15 years of a girl, she wanted to go into the pathway of a skill, you know. She was more towards technical education than towards going into the generally the book education, which we ALP program used to provide us. Over there, yes, there were some girls over there that I saw, and I had this experience with these girls, that they were mainstreaming themselves with skills of domestic work. Like they wanted to go into some small industry, they wanted to start with sewing, cutting and cookery and you know, cuisines, because this was something that they did in 2-3 years, and they wanted to adopt these things, but without training we could not let them go forward. Right now the out of school children, these children come from diverse culture, diverse ethnic backgrounds, they come from diverse set of family values. We have to bring them under one umbrella, and teacher, administrator and managers of the OSC need a very specific training modules. For that, I would like to request our government, the ministries, to start looking into or review the implementation policies, because one child, you know, one child in a family, when he or she is educated, and one girl in a family is trained to move forward, the whole family actually comes into that circle.
Yes, so no one can discount the effects,
exactly,
the marvelous effects of educating a girl, because she becomes a mother and she educates the entire household. Thank you so much, Ms. Kulsum, for shedding so beautifully the light on some of the missing gaps that we face as a society in our educational system, on mainstreaming the alternative learning pathways and also the adult literacy programs, and how to also include the kids who are dropouts, who are in the streets, who are either begging or doing some sort of work in the workshop to earn money for that, how to mainstream them back into the educational system that should be more flexible. They can experience the freedom of movement, while at the same time they can also contribute to their household work. Thank you so much once again for coming on to our show.
Thank you so
and
much.
for having this cross-pollination of ideas regarding the educational development and the early childhood development, particularly in terms of education. With that, I'm bidding you farewell. Until next time, so goodbye, Allah Hafiz, and good morning.